We are looking at what could literally be one of the most defining stock market events of the entire AI era. Welcome to this explainer. We're talking about a company that, honestly, barely even existed a few short years ago, yet is now positioning itself to absolutely reshape the financial and technological landscape. If you're curious about the future of artificial intelligence and the unbelievable amount of capital fueling it, well, you are in exactly the right place.
Okay, let's dive right in. Just imagine for a second getting the chance to invest in one of the world's absolute top AI heavyweights before it becomes a household stock. Imagine getting in on the ground floor, or, well, the mezzanine, of the powerhouse behind the highly capable Claude AI assistant. Because for a long time, the biggest players in this space have either been locked strictly inside massive tech conglomerates or kept fiercely private. But that dynamic, it's about to change dramatically. The doors are cracking open, creating a seriously rare window into the public market.
To really grasp sheer financial gravity we're dealing with here, just look at their recent funding. Anthropic recently locked in a staggering private valuation of around $965 billion. I mean, just take a second to let that number sink in. That astronomical figure already puts them right up there as one of the most valuable private companies on the planet. It's a historic level of confidence from private investors well before the public even gets a crack at it.
But wait, it doesn't stop there. When we look at the projections for the actual public debut, analysts are betting the IPO valuation could blow right past the $1 trillion mark. Seriously, jumping from $965 billion to a $1 trillion public valuation, that would make Anthropic's debut one of the absolute largest IPOs in the history of the market. We are talking about a true titan stepping into the public arena.
So here's our quick roadmap for today. We're going to hit 4 things. First, we'll meet the Claude maker. Second, we'll go over the IPO timeline and details. Third, how investors can participate. And finally, we'll weigh the risks and rewards.
All right, part 1. Meet the Claude maker. Getting the backstory on these guys is absolutely crucial to understanding why that valuation is so massive.
Founded back in 2021 by a group of former OpenAI researchers, this team basically stepped away to focus purely on building advanced AI systems that are designed from the ground up to be helpful, honest, and safe. Their flagship creation, as you probably know, is the Claude AI assistant. And look, their strategy is clearly working. They've been on this huge tear, expanding heavily into AI coding tools and enterprise services. In fact, recent reports estimate their annualized enterprise revenue is rapidly closing in on the tens of billions of dollars.
But Anthropic definitely isn't flying solo here. They've managed to attract jaw-dropping investments from 2 absolute tech titans, Amazon and Alphabet. Having the financial muscle and massive infrastructure of these global players in their corner, that gives Anthropic the deep pockets and the sheer compute power they need to train world-class models and compete at the highest possible level. It's exactly how they've cemented themselves as OpenAI's biggest rival. Moving right along to part 2, IPO timeline and details. Let's look at the actual SEC paperwork and the nuts and bolts of when this historic debut is actually going down.
Here is where it gets real. On June 1, 2026, Anthropic announced they'd confidentially submitted a draft S-1 registration to the SEC. Now, filing confidentially is a super strategic move. It lets companies quietly work through all the regulatory red tape without airing out their highly detailed financials to the entire world right away. But for us, the main takeaway is this. The IPO prep is 100% real, the SEC review has officially started, and a public listing is now a highly realistic possibility. That June 2026 confidential filing basically kicked off the countdown clock. Because of that, once the SEC review wraps up, a lot of analysts are expecting an autumn market debut, landing somewhere right in that fall 2026 window. And if we dig a little deeper, some specific reports are pointing to October 2026 as the prime target for the listing. Now sure, no official date is cemented in stone just yet, but all signs are absolutely pointing to this fall. Since the filing is still under wraps, we do have a few blank spaces we're waiting to fill in. Things like the specific number of shares, the ticker symbol, and the actual IPO price range, those are all strictly TBD for now. Those exact details will likely drop right before the roadshow kicks off. As for the exchange, it's not officially announced, but experts highly anticipate a listing on either the NASDAQ or the NYSE. Though given their status as a high-growth AI tech company, a lot of folks strongly believe the NASDAQ is the clear destination.
All right, part 3, how investors can participate. We know the massive scale and we know the rough timeline, but what are the actionable logistics for retail investors looking to get involved?
If you want a piece of the action, getting access basically happens in 3 potential phases. Phase 1 is looking for indirect exposure today, right now, before the company even goes public.
Phase 2 is hunting for those early IPO access programs that sometimes pop up right before the opening bell. And Phase 3 is the classic route, buying shares directly on IPO day once public trading officially kicks off.
For that third phase, buying on or after IPO day, retail investors will be able to secure their stake through the usual everyday brokerage platforms. We're talking the heavy hitters like Trading 212, eToro, and Hargreaves Lansdowne, along with interactive brokers Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and Robinhood. They're all expected to facilitate trades. Plus, some of these exact same brokers occasionally offer those early IPO access programs we just mentioned, so it's absolutely worth keeping a close eye on your app as the date approaches. But let's rewind a sec to that clever first step, the indirect backdoor strategy. If you're itching for exposure before the actual IPO date, a brilliant tactic is to look at the public companies that hold massive private stakes in Anthropic, basically Amazon and Alphabet. By owning shares in these corporate backers, retail investors might just catch a backdoor benefit as Anthropic's valuation skyrockets and those early bets pay off big time for the tech giants.
Okay, finally, part 4, weighing risks and rewards. In this explainer, we really pride ourselves on looking at the whole picture. So we've got to impartially balance the massive hype with the grounded realities of the AI market. The immense enthusiasm we're seeing is fueled by some very real growth drivers. I mean, businesses all over the globe are rapidly adopting and integrating AI. It's an undeniable seismic shift. On top of that, Claude has firmly established itself as one of the smartest, most capable AI assistants on the planet, driving highly lucrative enterprise revenue at massive scale. When you combine that with the broader belief that AI might literally be the largest tech opportunity since the invention of the internet itself, well, the hype makes total sense.
But we absolutely have to balance that excitement with reality. It isn't all sunshine. Anthropic is facing fierce, cutthroat competition from heavyweights like OpenAI, Meta, Google DeepMind, and xAI. It's a crowded ring. Plus, governments globally are actively drafting heavy regulations that could shift the entire operating landscape overnight. And then there's the valuation risk. Let's be real. Pricing an IPO at $1 trillion, that leaves literally zero room for error or disappointment. Oh, and keeping these massive models running burns through an unbelievable amount of capital just for infrastructure and data centers. The Anthropic IPO is really shaping up to be a monumental milestone. It's going to majorly test the market's true appetite for the future of artificial intelligence. And it brings us to a fascinating final thought. With a potential trillion-dollar war chest and the backing of absolute global titans, do you think Claude can eventually overtake ChatGPT as the dominant AI platform? I really want to know your predictions. Drop your thoughts on Anthropic's future down in the comments, and hey, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.